Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and let's talk about Tom Brevoort because he's being an idiot again. As you guys know, Ultimate Spider-Man, the new Ultimate Spider-Man has Peter Parker and Mary Jane married together, and it's what fans want. And Tom Brevoort feels like it doesn't matter and it doesn't help the sales. It's just a gimmick or whatever. But the thing about it is, Ultimate Spider-Man is selling better than Amazing Spider-Man, which is your main timeline Spider-Man book, and it's your most marketable book. The fact of the matter is that people are getting tired, and the fact that it's coming in at number 11, while it's been mostly Ultimate Spider-Man at the highest rate, shows you that people care. But Tom Brevoort believes that it's a mistake, that everybody's just over exaggerating, and it's just a few yahoos who are talking about it. So he basically said that, you seriously think that if there was an easy way to make sales skyrocket, I wouldn't do it? Well, yeah, we already know because everything in Marvel comics right now, along with like DC comic books lately, y'all been doing everything the opposite. We say, hey, we want Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson back together. What you do? Y'all bring in Paul. We want the X-Men to stop being queer analogies or whatever. You double down, triple down on it, and you keep taking classic Marvel characters and making them damn gay. Okay, we don't like Miss Marvel. All right, great. So we're going to make her not only an Inhuman, we're also going to make her a mutant, and we're going to send her back in the past of the X-Men, and we're going to make her the center of focus of X-Men most important history. Like, does that does that make any sense, Tom? Like, you guys are constantly doing shit like this where we're telling you we don't want it, and yet you're doubling, tripling down on it and talking about, oh, it doesn't affect the sales. Well, I don't know, because have you been in a real comic book store? Ultimate Spider-Man is sold out. Even for someone like me who, I was a little bored with it at the beginning, but the only selling point was Peter and Mary Jane being together. That's what really kept a lot of people invested. Now they're starting to get a little bit more interest, and of course the books are now harder to get because a lot of comic book stores have ordered, but the problem is people are buying the Ultimate Spider-Man books faster than they can get them. Unlike Amazing Spider-Man that's sitting on shelves right now. I literally been to a few comic book stores around my area. Amazing Spider-Man is sitting on a shelf. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's Ultimate Spider-Man that's the one that's sold out. I can't find hardly any Ultimate Spider-Man books. You get what I'm saying? Compared to Amazing Spider-Man, which is sitting there. So Tom Revor believes that um, the idea of getting Peter Parker and Mary Jane back together due to popularity of Ultimate Spider-Man, it really doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make a convincing argument. Oh my lord, Tom, you gotta be one of the most idiotic people of all time. But like Clown, I think because Clownfish was also talking about this as well, and other people online I saw. I think that Tom Revor might be pressured by Disney right now because it's getting past just the comic book world. It's normal people. Like I remember I was in a comic book store, and I remember when One More Day came out, and there was so much discord, and people were like, okay, maybe this is a result after the events of Civil War, but then afterwards everything is going to be back together, or whatever, because some people was actually looking forward to seeing Peter being a public hero at the time. They were like, he's going to be a public hero, him and Mary Jane Watson are going to be in danger, but at least, they're together or whatever. But then One More Day happened, and then when One More Day happened, people, the comic book stores, a lot of fans were talking about it. They were like, if this becomes the new status quo, and it forever stays like this, then I'm done. And the prices for the Amazing Spider-Man went down. Like, I mean, I'm talking about, like, people really did walk away from Spider-Man and Marvel comic books. And it's kind of funny because even Tom Revor was like, oh, um, The same thing with the X-Men. Like, he was like, oh, people don't really care about the 90s X-Men. It's just a gimmick or whatever. Okay, so if it was a gimmick, why did Marvel go with the sixth season of X-Men animated series then, right? Why did they start making toys based on the 90s version of the characters, right? Why did they doing many variant covers of the X-Men in their 90s costume? Why? Because that's what people want. That is the X-Men that a lot of people expect. Everything after the 90s is not what people want. They really don't. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of crazy that you say that when y'all literally made a show, X-Men 97. So if people didn't want it, then why did y'all make a show based on that version, those versions of the character then? Because you know that's what people want. So stop lying, Tom. Stop lying. You know, he also talked about, yeah, I've heard a bunch of yahoos whose ideas of a good time is sending us to the same form letter about Mary Jane and Paul every single day. But here's the thing, I think the point of view that you're taking is simply incorrect. What? First of all, the different sales between Ultimate Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man is relatively slim, he argued. It's not like Ultimate is doing twice or three times the business or anything. And second of all, I don't think the success of Ultimate at the moment is just Peter Parker and Mary Jane being married. I think it has a lot to do with the quality of work that Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto is producing. So I get that people who want Peter and MJ back together are of course going to point out the series, but the truth is that doesn't really make a convincing argument. I've been around particular blocks too many times over the years to mistake the signals. Well, you are mistaking the signals because that was a big promotional push for Ultimate Spider-Man that Peter Parker and Mary Jane was married. So what the fuck you talking about, you dumb ass? Like, you can't really say that and the evidence goes against you, because if that's the case, why are Amazing Spider-Man sales falling? They're slowly falling right now. Ultimate Spider-Man is beating it in sales. Even if it's not a big margin, that's still big when we're talking about your main continuity book, which is Amazing Spider-Man, which is being outperformed by alternate reality version of the character who is married, who y'all push constantly, who y'all do variant covers of Peter and Mary Jane together, who even show us sneak peek previews of Peter and Mary Jane together. You can't say that that's not a big deal. That is a big deal because that's what people want. You balonious jackass. Um, he also is given the hot button nature of this issue, it came at no surprise that the aftermath. Brevoort found himself facing a wave of pushback from readers who are fed up. I mean, yeah, they even did for a letter in the Amazing Spider-Man run that John Romita Jr. and Zab Wells did. Like, that is a problem when they're constantly asking, put Mary Jane and Peter Parker back together, Mary Jane and Peter Parker back together. Like, you don't think eventually this is going to head up to y'all big bosses, which is Disney? Eventually this stuff is going to have to make a head. Like, y'all gotta have to make a choice. The comic book industry has to make a choice. Either you cater to this new hip modern audience LGBT bullshit, or you go back to the original fans. And at this point, the original fans outweigh the modern audience because the modern audience aren't buying comic books like that. So this notion of we got to do this or that is stupid. People want Mary Jane and Peter Parker back together. Hell, like I said, I even let my mom and grandma read One More Day, and they were like, that was so stupid that Peter and Mary Jane would make that decision when they was like, they should have let Aunt May die. And then my grandma, I asked my grandma, I was like, would you have continued to read Spider-Man if you was a reader? She was like, no, why would I want to read this? Because he's a hero, and him and his wife made a dumb decision just to save his elderly relative who is already near death's bed in the beginning. She's already old. She already lived her life. Let her go and let Mary Jane and Peter Parker have a life. This is coming from people who really don't know anything about Spider-Man, but I got the comic book and I wanted them to read the comic book to see what their opinions is from a woman's perspective. And they thought it was absolute trifle, especially, my grandma's very religious or whatever. She was like, there's no way in hell Peter should have struck a deal with the devil, regardless of the situation at all. you should never be tempted by the devil in her eyes. So for y'all to even do that was completely stupid. And then he trying to call us yahoos, and he said, with the respect to the X-Men editor Tom Brevoort, and all the information publicly available contradicts too much of what he's saying. And back in the day, editors at least pretended to respect the yahoos who cared enough to write in and buy their books. This is not limited to Reddit, it's everywhere. Ultimate Spider-Man #6 tops Amazing Spider-Man 52 terms of sale. Ultimate Spider-Man tops comic books weekly comic book sales, bleeding cool bestseller list. Um Ultimate Spider-Man, let's see what this thing says. Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicero is everything fans want. Like, this is crazy. And then Tom Brevoort tried to come back with the whole. Let me ask you this, fam. Is Batman cratering? The editor lashed out in turn. Absolute Batman is consistently outselling it, right? Is Batman in the toilet? Do they bring back Martha Wayne back to life in the main series? Seems crazy, right? Martha Wayne is an element of Absolute Bats, and that's different from the regular book. So explain how the analog he explained, I mean, he used the analog of that for Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker. So it's analogous to Peter and MJ in Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't think it's responsible for those sales either, but the sort of argument you guys are making correlate isn't casualty. No, Tom, let me break it down to y'all. Let me break it about Absolute Batman. Absolute Batman is a alternate reality version Batman story. You know how many alternate reality story versions Batman has in DC comic books? Multiple. We've had multiple. So anything that they've done in Absolute Batman isn't shocked and isn't the reason why people are buying. It's something different with Batman himself. And guess what? People actually like when they do something different with Batman outside of the main continuity. That's why people brought Absolute Batman. Not because, oh, Martha Wayne. First off, Martha Wayne wasn't a promotional figure for um Absolute Batman. Mary Jane and Peter Parker being married was actually a big reason why people were buying Ultimate Spider-Man. Y'all promoted it like that as well. So again, don't sit up here and say dumb ass shit like that when you can't get your argument together or whatever. And on top of that, with the main continuity, Peter Parker, I mean, not Peter Parker, but Bruce Wayne, mom, Martha Wayne dying is essentially to his core in order for him to become Batman. He doesn't become Batman without their deaths. So you can't make that thing. While people have known Mary Jane and Peter Parker married for years, you know what I'm saying? Since the 80s all the way to the 90s. That was 20 damn years. It was almost 30 until 2007 when y'all said, fuck this shit. Fuck this shit. It's dumb to even try to correlate that at all. They're not the same thing. But again, people want Peter Parker and Mary Jane married. Again, it doesn't make any sense to stagnate them when you already have a teenage Spider-Man, Miles Morales. If you want the teenage angst, if you want a Spider-Man that can be for, the new generation, bam, there you go. You got Miles, and don't sit up here and say that you can't do anything because y'all done movies and merchandise and video games with Miles, and the young generation actually do like him. They're not saying he's better than Peter Parker, but they do like him, and that's good enough. I'd rather have that than have people constantly hate Spider-Man, Peter Parker. You know what I'm saying? To the point where people are trying to put the blame on Miles for this bullshit. And it's dumb. Everybody who's been doing that, you're ignorant. You're ignorant. Miles came out in 2011. The editors divorced Mary Jane and Peter Parker in 2007. And prior to that, they've been trying to get them away from each other since then. If you listen to Joe Quesada, he's been saying that for years. And this is before Miles was created. So, no, it's not Miles' fault. No, they're not doing this to make us like Miles because Miles wasn't even thought about until 2011. You get what I'm saying? They planned this before 2007 to get rid of Mary Jane and Peter Parker's marriage and keep them separated. And And then he said, and then the fan said, Martha being alive wasn't an accepted status quo for 20 decades, pitched by the original co-creator and used front and center in the marketing. The Spider-Man marriage, though, it was then and currently has been promoted heavily for Ultimate Spider-Man. And it features a married Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker. So what are you talking about? And then, of course, he dismisses him. He was like, and now it hasn't been accepted. It hasn't been the accepted status quo for 20 decades. Things change. And then I appreciate the response. Truly, I do find it odd. Martha being alive wasn't the accepted status quo, but how come y'all are showing promotional images and promotional thing where you have Ultimate Spider-Man married with Mary Jane Watson with kids all the time, all the time? And then he also stated that you state that the quality of Ultimate Spider-Man is what driving the sales. What exactly does that mean? Lack of quality for Amazing Spider-Man. Um it means that your perception of the lack of quality of Amazing isn't shared by the readership as a whole. But it is, Tom. It is. Y'all editors at Marvel are idiots. The X-Men editors and the Spider-Man editors, we don't want this crap. It has been said right there. People online has been saying it for years. They don't want this shit. But because y'all live in an echo chamber and you block people who says anything, y'all only see people who are cheering you on because that's all you accept. But I bet if I go on there right now and I say anything to you about I don't like this stuff, you'll block me because that's what a lot of y'all do. A lot of you artists, from Marvel, DC, editors, writers, and stuff like that from Marvel and DC, when fans give you real critique and criticism, you block them and or you send your hyenas to attack them and try to be like, see, they don't know what they're talking about. No, in truth, we do know what we're talking about. We're the ones in the comic book shop, not these weirdos who's on social media, not these LGBT motherfuckers, not these black people. And I'm black, and I'm letting you know they don't be in the comic book store like that. Okay, now are there exceptions to the rule? Of course there are, but the only reason why some people are in it now is because it's popular now, or whatever. It's popular for some people. Like people are now all of a sudden interested in Invincible. I already knew about Invincible or whatever. I read a few comic books or whatever and stuff like that. It's just that I was so heavily involved in DC and Marvel that I never really sat down and really constantly read it. But I used to read it. I used to have a few issues from Invincible. I thought it was really cool and stuff like that. And that was it. I never said it was terrible or anything. It's just that because it wasn't in Marvel and DC at the time, I really wasn't focused on that. But now that I'm a little bit jaded from Marvel and DC, it has given me more clarity to go out and read more independent comic books. You get what I'm saying? Thanks to the idiocy of DC and Marvel editors by doing shit like this. Um, And he also responded, Amazing Spider-Man at the moment is only selling because it's Amazing Spider-Man. You give those stories, you get those stories the last 2 to 3 years of any other IP that doesn't have established reputation, it won't even get views as fanfic. Sorry, but that's nonsensical. A book sells because people buy it. They buy it because they like it. And especially after 16 years, there's been no momentum in the world that would keep a book just selling just because. Well, actually, yeah, it does because people are holding out to the fact that they hoping that people that Marvel would get common sense and would actually reverse Mary Jane and Peter Parker's storylines because people are buying the books, but they're buying it because they're trying to keep their collection going. There's a lot of people who were buying Spider-Man just for collection wise to make sure that their collection isn't broke because some people had that habit and some you broke. A lot of people you broke, but not necessarily just because somebody buys a book and just because sales are there doesn't mean that people actually like it. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all so Y'all sold some books beforehand and people just don't like it. But because y'all say, well, the sales are there. You know what I'm saying? You get what I mean? That doesn't necessarily mean a damn thing. And on top of that, remember these sales are going to the stores. They're not going to the individual because the store has to buy these books. That's what a lot of y'all not understanding. These stores, comic book stores, Barnes and Noble books. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. They buy those books in units, not individualized. So what Tom is saying is a lie because the only reason why it's making some kind of sales is because a comic book store or a regular store that sells books ordered high value in order to get variant covers because y'all forgot we know about that scheme too. And then again he goes in and was like, conveniently anyone at Marvel can say a title is doing well and they're not required to offer any proof. We do not have postal stamps of the BN era, and it shows obviously decline. If in the BN a brand new day era was a bestseller, then Marvel across the board was just in the pits. Jack, I'm in the business. Part of the job is selling Marvel comic books. You seriously think that if there wasn't an easy way to make sales skyrocket, I wouldn't do it? Or that I'm lying about the information that I have access to? You certainly do not. At this point, why are you even talking? Well, because he's talking because he's seeing what's going on. A lot of us fans are seeing what's going on. And again, y'all sell these books to stores. You don't sell this stuff individual. So of course you don't see that. You get what I mean? They have to buy a surplus of books in order to get variant covers. Like that's that's what you're not understanding. So yes, it's going to look like the books are selling high because orders have to be high in order to get variant covers. That's the only reason why it looks good. Like it doesn't make any sense, and it's kind of stupid that he thinks that works. But hey, idiots is idiots, right? It just doesn't make logical sense how all of this is going down. Y'all are marketing Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker being together. That is the truth. That is the reason why Ultimate Spider-Man is selling high right now. That's why y'all are going into several printings because the book is selling faster than people can get to it. That's the thing. But the problem is with Amazing Spider-Man, the reason why it looks good is because y'all have done a whole bunch of variant covers, and comic book stores have to buy a big, large quantity in order to get a lot of those variant covers so they can sell to the individuals who want the variant covers. So it looks like the units for Amazing Spider-Man is selling high, but that's about it because they have to buy high in order to get some money from those variant covers. Let's not kid ourselves. But again, you say you don't know, but y'all been doing this for a long time. Put everything back together. Make sure the X-Men isn't a queer allergy again. Make Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker married again with kids. Kill off Miss Marvel. Stop trying to make Carol Danvers Captain Marvel a thing. Put her back in her Warboard costume. Let her go back to Miss Marvel if you got to. Give us a real Captain Marvel, if anything. You know what I'm saying? You know? um Make the Fantastic Four the center of the Marvel universe again, where if you're going to introduce new characters, new plots, it all goes through Fantastic Four first, foremost, before anything else. That's what people want. That is what people want. No more race swap, no more gender swap, sexuality swap, no more Spider Verse, no more multiverse colliding for a while. Just good, clean stories with the Marvel characters. That's all you got to do, and give people what they want. And the audience is screaming that they want Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker back together with children. That's all you got to do. Hey, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.